Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And today we're going to be looking at the end of year tour and whether it is in fact the time to be blooding youngsters. And basically what I did is sort of did a bit of a statistical analysis of the Springboks for the last sort of 11, almost 12 years basically, since 2009, having a look at when players are making their debuts, when coaches are building depth, when they are preparing for the future. And the reason for that is because when the squad was announced, a lot of people were quite upset about the lack of new faces in the squad and the fact that there was a lot of continuity with the squad and a lot of sort of the same faces. And it was quite interesting sort of seeing the reaction and then having a look at what's actually been done in the past and sort of is this the norm? Because a couple of people are saying that the end of year tour has always been used to build depth. It's always been used to give youngsters an opportunity. So I actually wanted to go and find out if that was the case. And before we sort of look at exactly what the breakdown is, because it's very interesting, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Now, basically, what I did is I went through each year and I looked at how many players are making their debuts, when are they making their debuts. And you've basically got sort of three windows through the year as a Springbok player. You've got your incoming series, your mid-year series, which can either be at the likes of an island. It's always a European side or a Japanese side, for example. But it's, the likes of an island or France or Wales or whatever. Often 3, maybe 4 tests in sort of a mid-year window. And that kind of precedes the Rugby Championship, which then takes place sort of July, August, September, October. And then you've got your end-of-year tour, which obviously takes place in November and is often 3 tests or else 3 tests in a Barbarians game or 3 tests in the World 15 game or something like that. That's sort of your end-of-year tour. And what I did is looked at what happens during World Cup years, for example, and just sort of look at trends. When do coaches usually go, right, I need to start building for the next World Cup, or else I need to sort of I need to start worrying about what's coming next. Now, obviously, 2020 doesn't count. It didn't happen because there were no Springbok games. But it's quite interesting. So if you look at the last sort of since 2009, now, first of all, in World Cup years, as you'd imagine, the least amount of debuts actually took place. 2011, there were just 5 new Springbok players, debutants. In 2015, just 4. 2019, just 4 as well. So it's pretty consistent across all coaching staffs. And they all were different coaching staffs. So then you look at Alliance tours. Now, 2009, 6 players made their debut. So far in 2021, 6 players have made their debut, which is quite interesting. Now, in 2021, 3 players made their debut in mid-year. So during the Georgia and during against the British and Irish Lions. I think they were actually mostly against Georgia. And in 2009, 2 players made their debut against the British and Irish Lions. Now, one of them was more Stone, and I think another one could have been Heine Brousseau, but that was a long time ago. I was very young. So back in 2009, so in 2009, only 2 players made their debut in the mid-year tour. Funny enough, if you look at the World Cup years, no players actually made their debut during the mid-year tour. But apart from that, interestingly enough, the end-of-year tour actually seems to be the time where the fewest players make their debut. If you look at overall, since 2009, 40% of debuts come in the mid-year tour, the incoming tour. 37% of debuts come in the Rugby Championship, and just 21% come from the end of year tour. The only time, and then just 2% during the Rugby World Cup itself, which is sort of replaced the end of year tour. So, interestingly enough, despite us all sort of saying that this is the time to build depth, statistically, it is actually the time where the fewest players get new caps. Almost double the amount of players get capped in the mid-year series, before the Rugby Championship. And it kind of makes sense because if you think of a calendar year, we used to have sort of Super Rugby. So you'd build Super Rugby, you'd understand which players you wanted to cap, and then you'd give them an opportunity in the mid-year series and bring in new youngsters. And then you'd probably take a similar squad to the Rugby Championship, but sometimes there are injuries, sometimes there are other players you want to look at, and you sort of make the data. But when it comes to the end of the year tour, there's not usually a particularly quick turnaround time from the Rugby Championship to the end of your tour. There's a little bit of Currie Cup going on. So generally, the squads remain pretty similar. And just 21% of people actually made their debuts. And I don't think much will change. And I think that it kind of puts into perspective when people are sort of sitting and very worried about the fact that we're not building depth. The biggest issue is that we did not have the 2020 season, because that 2020 mid-year season probably would have been, the big one. If we look back at the years, 58%, the year after a Lions series. So you've got your World Cup, 2 years later, you've got a Lions series. Now you've got that Lions series is done. And there were 12 debuts in 2010, of which 7 of them, more than half, came in that mid-year series. So it was literally like 2009, win the British and Irish Lions series, go for the end of the year tour, go for the Rugby Championship. Right, now we need to build for 2011. 2007, there were, of the 12 debuts, 7 came in the mid-year series, 5 came in the end of the year series. 2015 was pretty similar. After 2015 World Cup, 12 debuts in 2016, 6 coming in mid-year. So immediately, 6 months after the World Cup, you are giving more players. Same as 2012. After the 2011 World Cup, 11 debuts, 5 of which come in the mid-year series. But even 2013, 17, majority of your debuts seem to come in that mid-year series. 2018 was obviously the big one. That was under Alistair. Well, it was sort of that disaster. It was just after the Alistair Garcia era, and we had that Wales test, where 18 players made their debut in 2018, 15 of them in the mid-year series, and I think about 13 of them were actually that Welsh game itself. So it kind of sort of it's a bit of an anomaly and kind of skewed the statistics. But if you're looking at sort of the averages, it kind of, if you look over the years, in a non-World Cup and a non-British and Irish Lions year, the average, you're looking at about 11 to 12 new players. That's sort of been the trend over the last sort of 10 years. During a World Cup year, looking at sort of 4 or 5. British and Irish Lions has been 6 the last 2. So what will be quite interesting will be what happens next year. Because obviously 2018, we had these 18 new players, the majority in the Wales game. But in 2014, we had 12 new debutants ahead of 2015. In 2010, we had 12 as well. So I suppose it means as fans, we kind of need to sort of relax a little bit. And I think it's unusual times because we didn't have last year, which maybe means that we probably should have done more sort of end of year tour. But if, for example, Grant Williams and Sal Murad both get capped, we would have capped more players this year than we did in the 2009 year during the British and Irish Lions. And it would have been, it would have been more, and it would have been sort of 2 caps is pretty standard for an end of year tour. There were 4 in 2017, 5 in 2016, but before that there were 2 in 2014, 3 in 2013. You don't often get too many new caps in the end of year tour. I also think it was quite interesting as you look at the current squad. There aren't actually that many caps floating around. Your Damien Willemses, your Oxen Chairs, your Uploaded Fasties, they don't have a lot of caps to their name. So if those players are playing, there's still a certain amount of building depth. But I just thought it was interesting because the immediate reaction was this tour is always used to build depth and blood youngsters. But if you look at it statistically, it's actually the time, apart from World Cups, where the least amount of players or the fewest amount of players actually get their debuts. So let me know what you think of that down in the comments below. Smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Do you think we should have taken more players, or are you quite happy with this sort of setup? What are your thoughts down in the comments below? Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.